here. Sorry, I didn't want to shock anyone in the middle of it. Thanks, Kara. Appreciate the heads up. All right, well, it is noon. I know people are still logging in, but I know Cheryl has an action-packed hour for us, so I want to get started. So I want to thank you all for coming. This is the last lunch and learn of for the first part of the year. We will be taking a break, and we'll see you back here in September. But today's lunch and learn is with our very own Cheral Manke. It's on environmentally preferred purchasing. And so I'm going to quickly go over a few housekeeping items as you guys are all logging in, and then I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl just to let her get started. So first things first, we do want everyone to be able to participate, but during Cheryl's presentation, we would prefer that you would mute yourself so that everyone can enjoy the presentation. If you're looking to get credit for this for your recertification, and I just went through it and it's a pain in the butt if you don't get your credits all together, like me. So make sure that you get your name to a full name so we can give you credit. And then if you do have questions, Cheryl, are you going to want folks to hold their questions to the end, or do you want them to ask them while they're germane?
Whatever works best for the participants. Holding them to the end is typically easiest on the presenter, just so you can keep rolling, and not get caught up and then end up late at the end, not getting through everything. So if that works, unless there's something burning like you have to know right now.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, so we'll ask you if you have to know if like it's really something that we need to clarify right away. Go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. We'll stop or drop it in chat. We have some folks monitoring chat as well. So
great.
All right, and then just a quick reminder for those of you who were on or didn't even know this was existing, but we do have a Google group. For those of you who are on the Yahoo group, I would say 2/3 of you, 200 people did not transfer from the Yahoo group to the Google group. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that is a massive amount of people and institutional knowledge that we've lost. So we do have currently 136. The majority of them are not WANIGP people. I'd say about half are, and half are folks who do procurement as a small bit of what they do. And so we're a really great resource for them, but they're a great resource for us as well. So there's some information here. Take a snap of this page if you have any questions. The big thing that the organizers or the folks that really manage this Google group wanted to present what today is to make sure that you whitelist the WANIGP at googlegroups.com. Some people are not getting the information, and we're suspecting that might be one thing that we can that's an easy thing for you to do, is whitelist that to make sure that those emails do come in and you get the questions and the responses. So, all right, and then I think we've got some schedule stuff. I'm sorry, let's go over the schedule stuff really quickly, Kara, and then that way we can, and then I'll introduce Cheryl. So is that one of the next slides? Yeah. I'm going to do all the stuff that I do normally at the end just to give Cheryl as much time with the Q&A as possible. So just a quick reminder, we do have some upcoming events. Next week, we've got the risk analysis module. And so that's a 4-hour class. And then we're continuing with our emerging professional roundtables through the summer. So those are coming up here in June and July 12th and August 9th. And so please join us if you're an emerging professional or if you're a seasoned professional with some, ability to share your knowledge. We need a mixture of everyone in that roundtable. And then just a reminder, forums coming up starting August 19th and 20th, and then it kind of goes, I think, through the 23rd, and it's available virtual as well as in person. And it is a fantastic experience if you can do it. The next Lunch and Learn will be on September 6th. It'll be a disaster recovery lunch and learn. And then for those of you who are Mariners fans or just want to get together with the rest of your fellow WANIGP members, we are doing a Mariners game on September 16th. Thank you, Chris Martinez, for organizing that. Chris is with us today. And so you can buy your tickets now on wanigp.org. And if you just go to September 16th, you'll be able to order your tickets there, and feel free to bring guests. We love to have our families join us at the ballpark. And then we have our 20th anniversary celebration coming up on November 2nd. It's in conjunction with our fall conference. So the fall conference will be probably a later start, but it'll be during the day. And then we're going to transition into an evening of dinner and reminiscing and just some fun things with our 20th anniversary. We've got some really cool things planned for you. So please save the date. That is also on the website to save the date. We don't have the registration information quite yet because we're still formalizing some things. So, and then anything else, make sure you join look at our website. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Cheryl. For those of you who haven't met Cheryl yet, she is actually the Procurement Innovation Manager for the Department of Enterprise Services. She has over 20 years of experience in contracting, procurement and contracting. And I have known you, Cheryl, for a long time, and you've been one of those folks that's kind of a go-to in the public procurement, but you also have private procurement experience as well to bring to the table. And Cheryl has served on the governor's SEEP, Toxic and Plastics Reduction Committee. She's going to go into that, so I'm not going to go into that any further. But she's also chaired the WANIGP Procurement Advisory Council. She's a former enterprise procurement manager for the state of Washington. She served 3 times as the chapter president for Washington State here of WANIGP, as well as served on numerous WANIGP Institute boards. So the governing board, the member council board. She's currently the Pathways Concierge Advisory, or she manages that program. And she received her bachelor's in legal studies for contracts and an executive JD from Cal State. Man, Cheryl, I'm learning a lot about you that I did not know from University of Texas. And she also attended California State University, San Marcos, and she is a Disney Institute graduate. So with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Maya. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this exciting and important topic. This is going to be a dry run for me, so I would love any feedback as well for Forum this August, where they've asked me to present this. And before I start, I see that my partner in this incredible work is with us today, Liada Dahlhoff. Currently with DES, she is our toxics and EPP expert within contracts and procurement. We were blessed to be able to hire her, and you'll see me mention her in this. And coming from 20 years of being a toxics reduction specialist at Ecology. So she is another fabulous resource that has helped me build this program. So Liada, thank you for being here, and feel free to chime in any way along the way or for questions at the end. So we're going to talk today about reducing toxics, plastics, and solid waste through procurement and creating a new Washington Green purchasing program. So what was the catalyst? The thing that started this journey, we've always had green as an important thing in our work in procurement, especially in Washington State. But our Governor Inslee introduced an executive order 2001, originally 1801, that created the SEEP group, the State Efficiency and Environmental Performance Group. We call it SEEP. And it directs us to reduce toxics, plastics, solid waste, and greenhouse gases through government. So what does that look like for procurement? It mentions that reducing solid waste pollution and dangerous toxics in the products that state agencies purchase, which is key for this community, will have a direct positive effect on human health, particularly for vulnerable children. So that gets all of our attention. And in particular, toxics and solid waste reduction, there is a directive that says directors shall ensure agencies are complying with state rules and guidance on EPP, and that the directors of DES, my director, and Ecology will work together to produce guidance that is simple, clear, and targeted on the most important opportunities for toxics and solid waste pollution reduction. So what does that look like? So they form the SEEP EPP, or Environmentally Preferred Purchasing Work Group, to reduce the toxics and plastics through things that we purchase in government. I was appointed chair of that by the governor's office. It's a statewide group. And what I needed to do was get all of the procurement leaders across the state agencies together to collaborate on developing that guidance. So we also need to ensure that agencies are complying with those laws and the guidance, and then we're collaborating to create it. So that's what we set out to do. We reviewed the EO, had to identify how to implement that. Where do we start? And then looking at the directives, and from that blank slate, come up with ideas. So I was then assigned duties to identify leading best practices, creating those tools and guidance once again. And that's all needs to be done through procurement. So what we're buying, what we're contracting for, what we're going out to bid for. And then I need to report out to the SEEP Governing Council at monthly meetings. And that includes the governor's chief policy advisors, all the agency deputies or directors. My director would sit in there with us. And then quarterly to Governor Inslee himself. He would come to DES with his entourage and sit in our conference room and speak to us each one-on-one and want to hear how we're doing, what our progress was like, what our barriers were. And then he would add things like he added plastic to this. And he turned to me specifically and said, Cheryl, hey, can you reduce plastics in what we buy also? Let's get those out of our contracts. And I said, sure. And my director looked at me and said, can you? I said, well, if I can do all of this, let's add that to it. That's just as important. We will figure this out. And then also I have to coordinate with other SEEP work groups that are all chaired by DES, like electric vehicles, facilities, et cetera. And then meet monthly with the DES COO and all of our ADs to report on our status. So what does that look like? Where do I begin with this? It's a lot to take on and to figure out from a blank slate, but it's so exciting at the same time. So we created a new Washington State Green Purchasing Program, and we want to share with you how we did that. So first we knew we had a need to learn. We did not have scientists on our staff. We didn't have toxicologists on our staff. We were partnering with ecology already with Tina Simsich, some of you might know. And we were trying to build green into what we were procuring and buying. But we needed to know really where we stood in relation to best practices across our country. And then what were those best practices? So I applied for 2 NASPO green grants, received both of them, went out to bid for 2 consultants, one SPLC, one Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council. We had them do the national benchmarking assessment for us to see how we compared. And then Responsible Purchasing Network, RPN, did the best practices for us. So first, the SPLC benchmarking study showed, after asking us a bunch of questions and looking at other states, cities, counties, universities, that we were actually slightly behind the average of peers in our behaviors. So here's our score compared to some others. And we were shocked. We were like, what? How can we be behind? So we asked for a deeper look, and it shows that we were just initiating, and that showed that we were dabbling in it. But the average of others were dabbling a little bit harder. The highest was up here, already past developing and improving. So we were heartbroken to see that, and we thought we would be leading, and we were not. Because we are the evergreen state. We are all about the environment, trying to do the right thing, make good choices. And our governor is a sustainable hero. He is a green leader who runs on that platform, even ran for president on that platform. So how can we be behind? It was a good gap analysis to go through, very eye-opening lessons learned. So what are the recommendations to take action on that? So this is what SPLC came up with. She gave us a vision about reducing the toxic greenhouse gases and plastics, what our priorities are from an environmental standpoint, as well as social and economical. And then she prioritized our strategies, which is reducing those harmful chemicals, greenhouse gases, embedding sustainability into our procurement process and tools, and then change management through engagement and collaboration. And then here are the solutions she recommends for how we might do that. So we set out on a journey to do those things. But how, once again? So RPN showed us how. She was able to share with us what national best practices were out there, what other states were doing. For example, there are other states that have similar executive orders, like New York and Connecticut. So we were able to see what those directives are and what they did to address them. Massachusetts, Minnesota have EOs, others. We looked at green buying guides like California, Washington, D.C., because we needed a new one to be put into place. Green websites, Massachusetts. You can just click on all the tools and information that you need. Looking at annual reports, because we need to be able to report out on progress. Here's Maryland. Green specs, or a key piece that you'll learn through this, that if you don't have green specs, then you don't know what to buy or what to go out to bid for, what your contracts are for. So this was a huge thing for us, and it still is in place. So Alicia gave us then a slide deck that we showed the SEEP Governing Council and the governor's office on recommendations. She surveyed all the Washington state agencies, and this is the results. The number one thing that was mentioned is that we need clear EPP policies and procedures followed by specs. We need an updated manual or website or both, which is what we did. We need to label our green products on our state contracts for purchasers to easily identify when they're shopping. And we need to be tracking and reporting on the progress, where we are today, where we are tomorrow, and for years to come. So we're doing all of that, but how are we going to do that? We need to hire a dedicated resource. We didn't have that currently. We have a team of contract specialists and their leaders and everything built around contracts and procurement, but we do not know science. So we hired Lietta, who is on the call today. Lietta, I still every day thank the Lord for you. She again came into us from ecology. She knows her stuff. She has learned the contracts piece. It's been two worlds colliding. I just said yesterday on a call that we complete each other, and it is such an important resource. We used an FTE to hire her over, recognizing how important it is for this. We sought funding, contracted with RPN again to develop the tools and guidance for us. And we're partnering with ecology on the daily to ensure our guidance policies, the tools, and the specs that we develop align with their guidance. Because when you start to ask and understand what toxic chemicals are out there that we might inadvertently be buying and contracting for every day, we need to know that in order to know what to reduce. So this is what it looks like. And for a procurement person, it's like, huh? What are those things? They might as well be in another language. I recognize fragrance and ammonia, and we've heard of some of these things. But so that's where Lietta comes in, and our consultant, RPN, and our partners at Ecology help us contracting people understand this stuff. And are we buying it? And what are the most commonly purchased products that have these toxics? What should we be prioritizing? Not only for our resourcing, but for that's what the directive in the EO says. So Ecology helped us come up with this. And here are those chemicals that they shared with us that we should be looking for, the common chemicals of high concern. But for us, that still looks foreign. So then we asked, well, what are those? So they helped us understand, oh, these are flame retardants. These are solvents. I recognize that. We still needed to learn what these are. That still didn't make sense. But so where might we find those things in our contracts or our purchases? Okay, these are in these. Are we going out to bid for these or buying these? Yes. These are in these. Yes. So we buy those. Cleaning products, cable, packaging, flooring, furniture, yes. And all of these things. Okay, and here's some visuals about it for the visual people. We are buying these things. What are some of those things? Doing a little deeper dive. PCBs, which most of us have learned about with the new PCB statutes. It means yellow, basically. But while it was banned in the 70s, it's still naturally generated and released unintentionally through manufacturing processes. We weren't aware of that in contracting. It's in paint, it's in yellow stickies, it's in yellow cereal box. But the most dangerous on the list we found from ecology was yellow sidewalk chalk. So we should not be buying that for our children's institutions, for our schools, things like this are, and it's why it's not just about an executive order. It's about making decisions that can impact our environment and our people and our planet. And so being aware of all of this is so important. PFAS. This shows me that what PFAS is, the health issues it might cause, and some things that you can find it in. And we are buying some of these things. Mercury in lights. And somebody at ecology sent me this, and I was like, what? If this breaks, you're supposed to seal off the room, turn off your HVAC, and don't vacuum. We're not aware of those things. No wonder we shouldn't be buying these. Glyphosate, the Roundup that many of us have heard about, and how it's affecting our crops in our country. HFCs, it's not only in HVAC, but in refrigerants, in dust off, in dusters. Wasn't aware of that, and that is a super greenhouse gas. So these are all things that we do buy and sell typically in public procurement, one way or another. We may not be buying lipstick, but we are buying a lot of the other things. So let's learn about that stuff and help spread awareness. But again, where do we begin with this? So now what? So under the CEP EPP group, we stood up an action plan. We divided into some priority subgroups that will tackle our prioritized strategies and approaches. We created this action plan. It's like a charter. It sets out our scope, our schedule, what we need to be focusing on, because it's a lot. We had to break it down, and that became our playbook. The first thing we did was look at our green laws and policies, because there are so many in Washington state. Some states, like Massachusetts, have a single environmental law that everything fits under. It's a one-stop shop. Ours are all over, and they go way back. And there are so many that people are likely not aware of. So we capture those and put them in our manual and on our website. And this is just a sampling of them. Recycled content, mercury, PBTs, PFAS, HFCs, PCBs, plastics. It just goes on and on. There's new ones that keep coming out. Like this one, Leanna and I worked on plastic trash bags. There's a whole new law on that. Is everyone aware of that? By law, you can only buy certain bags going forward. And when does that go into effect? Oh, it's a phased approach. So are you aware of that phased in approach? So how can we help people become aware and ensure that they're complying with this stuff? These are just the 2023 bills under environmental health and safety that came through. Not all of them made it into law, some did, but these are what Leanna and I were looking at this year and giving that analysis on. There are more under health and safety and solid waste. Just want to give you a sampling. And this will be every year, more and more going forward. So how are we tracking that? We have bid preference laws and policies that we must, if we are going out to bid or purchasing, be giving preference to products and to bidders that have less or no of these toxics by law. Are we doing that in our bids? Are we aware? And this is why we need to be helping ensuring that agencies are in compliance with these things. And it's not an audit thing or you're not doing this thing. It's helping procurement professionals and purchasers make sure that they're aware so they are not only in compliance, but making those choices. So first thing we did after that is look at what we're bidding. We created this forecast based on the DES statewide contracts, planned procurement list for the next 2 years. And then we identified whether or not we have green specifications for each of these things. First, we identify what has green potential, because not everything does. It's actually a limited number in comparison to everything we go out to bid for. But the things that do have green potential or do have toxics or recycled content or plastics or alternatives out there available, we need to be identifying those as potentially green. Do we have green specs that we can be providing those contract specialists and green language to incorporate into that solicitation? And then what category does it fall under? Is it a recycled content as the primary? Is it toxic? Is it mercury? Is it PCBs? So that we can start tracking those and how we are doing on those as part of our metrics and reporting. And then looking at and having available for the contract specialists and purchasers what green laws or policies are applicable that target these as a potentially green contract or bid, because we're not doing this just because we think it might be green. There are actual laws and policies out there that apply. And so we are then tracking whether or not green is incorporated into that and then counting it. Next, we need to look at how are we going to build green into the process into our desk manual, because people are rapidly going out to bid for things. They're under tight timelines. They're already incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion and the right price and quality and all the things, delivery. How do we make space for green and come to them with some tools and information and language so that they don't have to try to go out and find this on their own and invent this, because again, they are not scientists. They don't know what's out there. So we created a tool to help, the new state EPP guide or the green purchasing manual. It's a comprehensive guide to EPP that gives them all the information that they need. And this will help us again ensure that we're collaborating to provide that guidance. Here's a little look into that manual, which is on our green website, which I'll show you in a bit. It gives you direct links to all the Washington EPP rules, laws, EOs, and policies, step-by-step instructions for people going out to bid. EPP questionnaire for procurement coordinators. So if you're starting a solicitation, it asks you, it tells you, walks you through, does green even apply to this? And DS has a green calculator on its website as well that helps you say, okay, are you going out to bid for this? Does it have this? Does it have that? Will people consume it? Is there any yellow in it? You know, all these things. And at the end of it, it tells you, yes, there is green potential for this. You should go through this and utilize this and other tools that we have. Or it may say, nope, there's no green potential here. Go on with your business, but it helps you understand that up front. We've got boilerplate language, survey questions, et cetera, and I'll show you some of that here. So here are those questions that are also in the calculator. What type of products or services are you going out to bid for? Are there any environmental or health goals, et cetera, et cetera? And if you are going out for any of these things, these are the natural, already identified green product categories. So if you check any of these boxes, then that has green potential. And this also applies for if you're just trying to buy something off a contract, and we'll speak to that in a minute as well. Here again is that step-by-step. Number one, you look to see first if there's a statewide contract to buy from, because state agencies are required by statute to buy from statewide contracts first. And it's also a good resource for other procurement entities in our state to check those to see if that resource has already gone out to bid for you. It's there for you to just shop from. And then you evaluate the EPP opportunities, stakeholders, and you include green here, and you include LIATA in this process if you're in our agency, or your green person in your agency to say, hey, I just identified my contract as potentially green. Can you help me? Or you can turn to our green website here in our guide and incorporate things. There is solicitation language that's boilerplate that you can plug right in. And here are the preferences, and you can identify which preference may or may not apply to your solicitation. And then we also have sample price sheet, a template for that, and all kinds of good language that you can just plug and play. This is another thing in the manual that has been a challenge for people over the years that I've experienced is understanding green certifications and labels for products. There are so many out there. There's greenwashing where people say it's green. They may or may not have a label on their certification that may or may not truly represent green. It may be greenwashed, as we call, and I'm doing air quotes. So this guide shows you what they are, who offers them with links to their sites, and what they typically apply to. Like there's some for flooring, some for office supplies, etc. So this really helps. An EPEAT for electronics. And then that gives you something you can trust in a resource. And that's all these things are constantly changing. So this is a living, breathing document that we are working on continually updating so that it's current. These are the green specs. Now talk about living, breathing, changing. This we had to actually pull out of the guide as a separate standalone document so that LIATA and I can continually update this as new projects come up, new contracts, new rebids, but also as specs change, because standards change, best practices change, certifications, labels, they're constantly moving, evolving as we identify, as the world identifies and discovers new green things. So we need to be always adding to this. So like this is for electronic equipment. So if you're buying TVs, here's just copy and paste this into your specs, either for a purchase order, for a direct buy, for a solicitation for your contract. These should be your requirements if you're buying TVs today to comply with Washington laws and best practices out there like EPEAT. And we say that this is a starting point, you see in bold capital letters, because what you do is you build from it. You plug this into your draft, you run it past your stakeholders, past your leadership, they adjust it to make sure that it meets also the purchaser's needs, because as we all know in procurement, it's about finding that balance. Yes, we need to be complying with laws and policies, but there needs to be products available that purchasers can buy, right? So are there products? And that's part of that market research that we do up front. Is there something available? Is there a TV available that complies with these laws? If not, what then? Then that's a conversation with your leaders, with your stakeholders. It's about the catalog. LIATA and I have conversations just yesterday and all the time, and especially with our consultants who want us to just ban products that don't comply with our laws. Well, what if those products aren't available? We need to have other products available for our customers, or they're going to go buy them somewhere else off contract. And now having that contract in place is for naught. They still have to go shop on their own or go out to bid on their own. And so it's always walking that fine line. And then here are the categories that we have, the larger categories within the specs. And then there will be, like under office supplies, there's pens and paper, stickies, recycled content, copy paper, filing supplies, everything you can need is under the office supply specs. Here's fleet equipment and supplies. So you see all the different brakes, charging, coolant. And over here is cleaning chemicals. So under green cleaning supplies, there's all kinds of different ones. These are ready to use. Those are concentrated. We also have green buying guides to help purchase these products. And these are great tools, not only for purchasers, but for contract specialists that manage these contracts. If you manage the recycled content white copy paper contract, you could put this on your contract portal page. It highlights the contracts that we have at DES with links to them, but it also tells you what to look for when you're shopping. Look for these logos, these seals, these certs, these eco labels. Same with hand soaps. There's those contracts. We created a new green web page. It has links to all of these great things that we're talking about today. So there's the laws, here's the checklist, here's the questionnaire, specs, certs and labels, buying guides, boilerplate language, so that you don't have to go into the entire green guide and find it, even though you can click on in there the table of contents on each one that you want to go to. And here's those specs that we pulled out separately for updating. There's links to EVs, to the SEEP office, templates and tools for agencies. So this is a great resource for anybody to use from any agency. Building green into our rebids. This is Lietta's core mission. It's exhausting. I feel for her, but what an important job to have. So again, we look at potential EPP opportunities on our rebid calendar. These are what is coming up. Since we hired her, now I need to update this, of course, for 23, but as an example of what she had to do from when she started, do we have specs? When is the rebid due? And then she can identify who the contract specialist is and sit down with them and say, hey, we see that you're rebidding parks and rec playground equipment or native plants. I see it's due here. Can I sit down with you, walk you through our EPP manual, the step-by-step, here's the language, here's the specs. Can we incorporate this? And she does all of that. We've engaged RPN as we've needed also on some of the more difficult, complex ones. And then it's up to the contract specialist and the stakeholders and the contract specialist supervisor as to what actually gets incorporated. Hopefully all of it, if there really is a need for it. And then we're tracking that and have to report out on it all the way up to the governor's office. So this is a list of the rebids that she has added green to, what she's currently working on, and this grows every day. And she shared with us again yesterday that she works on these, moves on, the next ones come on. It's an evolving list. So it's a lot. But if anybody out there from cities, counties, schools, ports, anybody is shopping for things, having to go to bid for these things, you can look at our state contracts and know then that hopefully there are green products on those, that the bid has already taken place and you can just shop from. So we're trying to do it not only for our state agencies, polysubs or other entities are 70% of our business shopping from our contracts. So we're doing it for our entire state to help everyone be green and verse and everything else. This is our single-use plastics reduction toolkit created at the personal request of Governor Inslee. Inside there are sample policies, procedures, alternatives, how to communicate, sample newsletter articles on why breaking up with plastics, as we call it, is important. And that is especially true with kitchen supplies and events, potlucks, water bottles for interviews, things like that. That's where a lot of that comes into play. We also were asked to do a safer green cleaning toolkit for the return to the office. Everyone wanted to disinfect after COVID. As you can imagine, the panic was on. Everyone wanted to buy bleach. That is one of our top toxics. So how do we provide a toolkit that allows agencies to be safe, kill the virus, not be afraid, but also not be making people sick with different toxics in their workspace and not even realizing it? So we partner with UW, Ecology, And we came up with a presentation on this that we gave to the SEEP Governing Council. We are refining how we're searching for green contracts in the DES statewide contracts. We removed all the green flags originally because customers were sharing they didn't really add a lot of value. You may not be able to find green products on the contract. So now we are working to build back in, check those green boxes on contracts that we know Leetta has actually helped build green into, and that there are green products on the catalog or in the catalog. So that's being evolved. But how do we know how we're doing? What's our actual impact? Is any of this working? So to start, we have our top 3 priority product categories with the highest potential for toxics in state agency purchases per ecology, but also that have access to possible data from savvy suppliers who are willing to partner with us to test the spend data. So computers are the #1 most commonly purchased toxic category, which was a surprise to me. I thought it would be cleaning supplies. That's also one in the top 3, and office supplies. So these are the areas that we are focusing on to begin this data collection and reporting. Our consultant RPN came up with this very complex spend data spreadsheet that we send to our suppliers for janitorial, office supplies, and computer equipment. We asked them to fill this out for us. Like, this is an example for janitorial supplies for the calendar year 2020. Who bought what? Is it a state agency or a polysub? What they bought, all the details, how much was sold, the price. But here's the key part. Is this product green seal? Yes or no? Is it Safer Choice? Is it UL Eco Logo? And this goes on and on. The columns go out beyond the screen. And this is one page of hundreds. So then we are able to get this back from all of these entities, but then we have to scrub it. It was the hugest lift, so time consuming, and literally causes Leetta's eye to twitch. So much sweat equity from our SEEP group. We have a couple agencies in on this helping us. It was a nightmare. So we're working to refine this. But what it did was it allowed us to produce our first annual report where we not only were able to tell our story about everything we've been doing about this journey, but and understanding what we're buying. It was able to show us where we were at for 2020 for spend data. And this is a lot to take in a slide deck, and I apologize for that, but I want to give you the snapshot of what we're looking at. And I can give you more offline if you need more detail. And we're coming out with our second annual report soon, which you'll hear in a second. But so you can see where we're at in meeting the green spend. Like for computers, we're doing pretty well. We didn't know. This is the first time we've ever looked at this. Spend data comes to DES as a large single number. DSHS spent X million dollars with us this quarter. And that's it. We don't know what products, and certainly not are they toxic or not, or any of the details of those products. So it was a blessing to get this. Just hard to compare it then to our standards, because what the supplier might say is green may or may not meet our state laws or our standards. So that's where the scrubbing comes in. Here's cleaning supplies. We're doing okay. Green was 40%, non-green 36%, in a time where COVID was a concern. So that's okay. Office supplies, we did pretty well. And again, we've never collected this. So we didn't know if it would be 0 green on all these or all green or somewhere in between. So this is okay. We're doing all right. And then we got a breakdown here when we did a little deeper dive. Where are we doing well? And the gray is where we could improve. So then we can start focusing on that. but we were 85% green. So now we're on our second annual report because we've learned so much. We're able to share that we released our guide, the website, our forecasts, our Trello boards, our strategy map, our subcommittees, and our new data. Now this is still under review. We're crunching all this data. Comms is reviewing our report right now, but it looks like we are doing fabulous in computers and in office supplies. When you look at year over year, dramatic differences just in having an awareness campaign for 1 year. So we're hoping that that will be a continued trend. We went from 41 million 2021 for spend and 40 million. So spend is similar. But non-green dropped from 9.1 million in 2020 to 31,000 in 2021. And non-green equates now to only 0.08 in 2021. Which is fantastic. And the top were EP Gold, which is the best. So kudos to everyone for that. Janitorial supplies, very similar. Doing great here. Our spend is half, probably because everyone was teleworking. But non-green purchases dropped from 3.6 million in 2020 to 491,000 in 2021, or only 8%. And non-designated, which didn't say they were green or not, from 2.3 million to 676,000. Both fantastic. Office supplies, we are redoing the data right now, but at initial glance, it was looking like the non-green actually grew. And same with non-designated. So we're working on that, but we think that teleworking, return to the office, supply chain issues, all of that had an impact. And so we're doing a deeper dive on that and identifying the categories, the subcategories where we can help educate and do a campaign on that going forward after we have our more solid data. So, and hopefully that downward trend will turn up, but that awareness campaign will really help. So we are monitoring and tracking progress. We have some key performance indicators that we're starting with. So, you know, X% of improvement on those that you just saw, and then adding new ones like flooring, lighting, food serviceware, incorporating green into statewide bids. Hopefully 100% of those that we target get that green language and those laws and policies in there and those green specs. And then agencies utilizing our training, procurement, purchasing professionals are actually implementing the new guide and trained on it. This is a peek at our Trello board for all of our SEEP projects. It really helps us track things. All of our subgroups are here and they report out at our monthly meetings. We have our agendas here. You can see there for the tracking and reporting. This is Leatta's tracker for all the contracts she's working on with all of our contract specialists. Again, helps track. This is our strategy map for all the different SEEP work groups that I mentioned. You can tell what each one is supposed to be doing per the directive so that these are the outcomes and results. And then we're working on those metrics like reducing toxics and solid waste X by 20XX so that we can report that to the governor regularly. This is our last SEEP Governing Council meeting. You can see here I am along with all of our other participants, Leatta, all the agencies. There's Sherry Sawyer from the governor's office. Here's Governor Inslee popped in. And Hannah from Commerce was sharing the green purchasing success stories, and he was there to listen and he wanted to talk about it. So it just shows how in tune everyone is to this and what a priority it is and how important that we're all working on it together collaboratively. There is a SEEP newsletter that comes out every month. we are now working with our communications to do something like Massachusetts does. They call it By the Way, and it has different stories about successes, about challenges, highlights different products, different contracts that have green on them so that people are aware, and events. And this is an example of something else we want to do at DS that our business diversity team does. So again, it highlights, spotlights the contracts, gives news and updates, and we could share success stories across different agencies and entities that are doing green. So this is kind of a recap of everything that I shared today. One other thing we're doing is in building this green, less toxic foundation for Washington. We are working with the state wide training group right now to make our guide more interactive. It will be role-based. It'll tie into our EPP calculator, our existing preference trainings and tools, but it should result, hopefully, like our supplier diversity manual does, that you open it on our website and you say whether or not, hey, I want to buy green pens. I want to buy something green. I'm not going out to bid for something. I'm not trying to develop a solicitation or a contract. I just want to buy something. I don't want to go through a whole manual about developing a bid document. I just want to go out maybe with a PO or a direct buy. So it should direct you to, by clicking on that, all the things you need to just be a purchaser. Or if you are developing a solicitation, going out to bid for something, managing a contract, there'll be a spot for that as well, and all the tools for that. And so stay tuned. That is coming. Pilot launch September 1st is the goal. So we will share about that. And that is it. Thank you very much. And I'll open it up to questions, but here's my contact, my email, and then links to our green purchasing. And Leetta, if you have anything that you'd like to share, to add real quick, otherwise I'll take questions.
Well, Cheryl, I did not think you could get through that many slides that fast, and you did a fantastic job doing it.
Thank you. Made me stumble over myself trying to talk too fast, but I did.
I know. It's
this is a 90-minute presentation, everyone. So.
That's what I thought. I figured when I saw the number of slide decks. We do have a number of questions. We got 3 questions in the chat. So the first one was, with so many new laws, how is compliance being monitored?
Through everything you just saw.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, and this is state agencies only right now, correct?
Correct. And we at DES and the SEEP group don't audit. We are tracking and monitoring only through success stories, through spend data, which you saw, and that is a slow, rigorous process because currently we don't have a way to capture that unless the suppliers provide it to us. And then it's more about, it's not calling people out, it's about sharing awareness and then doing those education awareness campaigns. And then, but when we report this to the SEEP Governing Council for the state agencies anyway, and the governor and his chief policy advisors, they will see how we're doing. And if an agency wants to know, well, how's my agency doing in buying green office supplies or toxic ones, they will have that insight. And then they can go back to their purchasing, procurement, and all of their divisions, really, wherever there are purchasers, because they're across agencies, right? It might be admins buying office supplies. Then they can reach out and work with their own leadership and their teams to say, hey, look, I just found out we are buying really toxic office supplies. And there are laws against this. So what can we do as an agency? And here are some tools, and here's some education, or let's reach out to SEEP, and that maybe they can come in and do something for us, a training. So we're here to help.
Awesome, thank you. We also had another question. Will we have access to the collected spend data report as a customer? So can we report internally too?
Yes. So the annual report is housed on our new DS Green Purchasing website that you see here. It will currently have those snapshots, those charts and graphs around what we discovered. If an agency wanted to see how they did, they could reach out to us and we could share that information. But we aren't posting the whole thing out there so that everybody sees, oh, DES did this well or this poorly. That's for our agency to work on, really.
Yeah, I know there's still a lot of work to get to do in this area as well. So
yes, and the new reports, I should say, does include cities, counties, ports, higher ed, school districts, everyone. So Maya, if you wanted to know if your agency was buying anything, if you use our state contract stuff.
We do. We do. We love
Great.
them.
Good job. Good answer. But it will show how you did if you bought all green or some green, some not green.
Awesome. No, that's actually really, really helpful. Sometimes we just lack, like you, we lack the resources to track it ourselves. And so one of the other questions we got was, do you use special software to track the green and sustainable spend, or how is that tracked behind the scenes?
That is something we are hoping for in the future with the One Washington system that is supposed to be coming into play in the next years, probably at this point. Right now, we do not have that, and that's part of the huge lift. We have to do it manually. We have to look at every product, compare it to our specs and our laws and our policies and our standards. That's why it's been impossible to date and still is really hard.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's across the board challenging for folks. So even for us collecting our small minority women veteran-owned spend is really manual process. And so hopefully we can kind of come up with some of this. So we do have another question. How did DES vet the certifications and eco labels in the purchasing guide?
That's where our national best practice consultant came in. She is a national leader in this for states, cities, counties, universities, everyone. She sits on national boards like the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, and she works directly with those certs and labels and other entities, experts on this. And together they come up with what really is the best practice, what you really can trust. And so she built that. She wrote this for us, literally wrote this guide, and we just provided comments. So we trust that. And Leetta is our ecology expert, and we tap into all of the experts at ecology as well, because there are different sectors, different categories of all of this work that have different experts to lean on.
Wow. So much work. One of the other questions I think a lot of us are wondering is One Washington a software that once implemented is available to other public entities, or is it something you could purchase licenses for? How is that going to look? Is that state only?
That is a whole nother presentation. I also chair that Procurement Advisory Council. So I'll be able to help you with that. It is for state agencies because at its core, it is the new state core financial system. And so, yes, but I and our Procurement Advisory Council have been a very loud voice, very vocal, and everybody at DES that this is paramount to our customers that are outside the state agency umbrella or firewall, that they need to be able to access somehow. And I gave them a model diagram of different steps or stages that ideally all of you would be able to access, whether it's just shopping our contracts or being able to shop and check out, or being able to shop, check out, post solicitations, run reports on the data. There are all these various things. And can they buy a license? Can they? But it's all about, they're still working through all that because of the OFM financial firewall. So, and working with Workday, who is the selected vendor. what can we allow for people outside that firewall to do and have access to without being inside the budget, the finance side of it. So we're working through that, and we will let you know as soon as we know more.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, we have a couple tips in here that some of our in the chat for folks that well, not only on some, I think on some locations for reporting out with stars, as well as some links for greener products through the EPA. So some other options for folks on attendance as well. You want to check that chat out before you leave. Does anyone have any other questions? Because we are at 1 o'clock right now. Well, thank you, Cheryl, so much for taking the time. I know you are leaving us to go join the NIGP VCon, so we really appreciate you taking time and working with the Institute to reschedule the presentation they asked you to make there. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time and joining us, as always.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone else who participated. And from the Lunch and Learn Committee, we'll see you in September. But for those of you who want to join us on the Emerging Professional Committee, remember we're meeting all summer. So check us out on the website. All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.